Allen Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
The U.S. DOT is forging ahead with a proposed mandate of automatic emergency braking systems for heavy trucks. If that idea of another mandate gives you pause, there's a way to slow the process down. We'll break down what that looks like. Then, OOIDA is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and Life member Jim Bolton has been around for basically all of them. As you might imagine, Jim has plenty of stories to share, and he's kind enough to share them with us today. And finally, succeeding as an owner-operator can be hard. It takes a lot of work and a lot of planning. But where do you start? A solid business plan. It's so important. The OOIDA Foundation's Truck to Success seminar spends a great deal of time walking attendees through it, and we've got a preview of it. That and more to come. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association is once again asking lawmakers to reject efforts to allow heavier trucks on the nation's highways. In a letter this week to the House Committees on Transportation and Infrastructure, Appropriations and Agriculture, OOIDA stated that it has long opposed efforts to increase the size and weight of commercial vehicles. The association said it hopes that lawmakers will reject any efforts to do so through any single bill or as part of larger legislative negotiations on infrastructure, appropriations, or Farm Bill reauthorization. Specifically, OOIDA aims to stop two bills from being passed into law. Current federal limits are 80,000 pounds. The bills would increase that maximum by as much as 11,000 pounds. More than 27,000 Granite trucks are being recalled by MAC. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, there is a turn signal issue. According to NHTSA documents, MAC is recalling 27,418 Granite GU and GR trucks, model year 2015 to 2023. The turn signals may be positioned incorrectly, reducing their visibility. Low turn signal visibility may not alert other drivers to a turning vehicle, which could increase the risk of a crash. Dealers will add additional turn signal lighting free of charge. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed on October 17th. Some preliminary semi-annual estimates are out on motor vehicle deaths. The National Safety Council says deaths are down 3% this year. NSC estimates 21,130 deaths in the first 6 months of 2023, down from 21,870 in 2022, a difference of 740. The topic of speed limiters is getting some attention in mainstream media in Rhode Island. OOIDA President Todd Spencer recently did an interview with the television station WPRI-TV about the topic.
You increase the likelihood of crashes because other motorists get impatient and sometimes they make poor decisions.
OOIDA has called on lawmakers to pass legislation to block a mandate on speed limiters.
We don't think regulators in Washington know better than others on this.
The executive director for the Truck Safety Coalition was also interviewed. The coalition supports speed limiters, saying it would make the roads safer for everyone, a claim OOIDA disagrees with. The Hydewood truck parking sites on Interstate 29 are closed. South Dakota's Department of Transportation said that during the closure, crews will perform cleaning activities and maintenance work. Northbound and southbound truck parking sites will be closed, and motorists are asked to plan alternate stops and adjust travel accordingly. The truck parking sites will remain closed until further notice, with no scheduled reopening date. Residents of New Hampshire who own electric vehicles will have to start paying an annual surcharge starting tomorrow. WMUR report that since EV owners don't pay New Hampshire's gas tax, they'll need to pay a surcharge of $100 for electric vehicles and $50 for plug-in hybrids during annual registration. The Division of Motor Vehicles director said the money collected will go directly to roadway infrastructure around the state, just like the gas tax does. Final stages of construction are happening on the Gordie Howe International Bridge. WDIV reports that drivers can expect to see some major changes over the next few weeks. The last concrete pour for the sloped architectural heads at the top of the pylons is now complete. The tower on the U.S. side of the bridge has reached its full height of 722 feet. Crews will soon begin removing equipment, platforms, and materials before a crane will lift each of the 8 panels from the tower. The bridge is expected to be open in 2025. South Carolina residents can take advantage of a new CDL class for free. This course at the state's Atkin Technical College also is available to out-of-state residents for a fee of $4,800. The college's Office of Continuing Education is offering the new CDL Class A tractor-trailer course in partnership with Ancora Training. Day and night sessions will be available starting on September 18th. Getting real-time traffic conditions, construction project information, and weather forecasts will now be easier thanks to a new website and app that the Utah Department of Transportation launched this week. The new website and app offer an improved interface and several customization options. Troy Peterson, UDOT's Director of Operations, said these upgrades will do a better job keeping users informed of highway conditions. To see the new versions, visit u.traffic.utah.gov or download the UDOT Traffic app. If you haven't filed your 2290 yet, time is running out. The deadline for filing Form 2290, the Heavy Highway Vehicle Use Tax Return with the Internal Revenue Service, is midnight tonight, August 31st. Anyone who registers a heavy highway motor vehicle in their name with a taxable gross weight of 55,000 pounds or more must file and pay the tax. The process is relatively easy on the IRS website. Filing afterward comes with a penalty. 2 new Love's locations just opened in Opelousas, Louisiana and Jackport, Nevada, adding dozens of truck parking spots to these areas. The location in Opelousas, located off Interstate 49, adds 64 truck parking spaces to the St. Landry Parish. The location in Jackport, located on Highway 93, adds 31 truck parking spaces to Elko County. The U.S. Department of Transportation has announced a new assistant administrator and chief safety officer for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Sue Lawless will officially assume the position on September 10th of this year. In this role, Lawless will serve as FMCSA's chief safety officer to promote the agency's safety mission, collaborate with federal, state, and local governments, and provide direction to all national commercial vehicle safety programs. Prior to her appointment, Lawless served as the director of FMCSA's Motor Carrier Driver and Vehicle Standards Division. And finally, load securement is crucial no matter what you're hauling, but especially when it comes to bees. UPI reports that police in Ontario, Canada recently called in beekeepers for backup after approximately 5 million bees fell off the back of a truck. A police spokesperson told CBC News that police aren't sure what happened, but the boxes containing the bees slid off the trailer and spilled all over the road. Several local beekeepers came to the rescue, with one saying that they had to be extra careful during their efforts because the insects were agitated. Police said the driver of the truck was cited for driving with an insecure load. They also warned locals that there could still be a large number of bees in the area for a few days. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Automatic emergency braking systems could soon be required in the truck you might be in right now. That's if the USDOT gets its way. But collectively, the trucking community can throw a giant monkey wrench in the regulatory gears, so to speak. Jay Grimes of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office breaks down what that process looks like in our weekly regulatory roundup. That's right after this short commercial break. Stick around. Landline Now is back in just a moment.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
For can't miss accuracy, weigh your truck on a CAT scale.
When you weigh on a CAT scale, you get a no excuses guarantee. You can now save time weighing by using your smartphone. Find out more at weightmytruck.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back to Landline Now. Congress has been on August recess for most of the month, so it's been quiet, but that doesn't mean the regulatory wheels of Washington, D.C. have stopped turning. We've got some new developments to go over, and when that happens, it usually means that Jay Grimes, OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, isn't far away, and wouldn't you know it, here he is in Studio A. Jay, good to see you.
Back again. How
Back
you doing?
again. We can't get rid of you. Not that we would want to, Jay, but you're always lurking in the corners waiting to talk about regulatory matters, and here we are again. Fair to say it's been slow in our nation's capital for the past few weeks, but we do have some new stuff to talk about here. The first being a call to action that came from OOIDA this week regarding this joint proposal from FMCSA and NHTSA about automatic emergency braking systems. They want to mandate. Before we get into what folks out there need to do before September 5th, let's go over what this proposal is all about for those who might need a refresher.
Right. So this is another rulemaking that stems from the 2021 Highway Bill, Infrastructure Bill that, Congress required that DOT kind of go through this rulemaking process to mandate automatic emergency braking technology. There's been one proposal for heavy-duty trucks, and then there's been a separate proposal for all other vehicles. And when you look at, there's a huge difference here when you kind of compare these two rulemakings. On the light-duty side, a lot of this technology for passenger cars and the general public has been around. The car manufacturers have been working on it for a while. They've put a lot of work in making sure that it works good for cars. It's a little different story on the trucking side. Certainly, there are some commercial trucks with the AEB technology on it right now. But the major problem is that it doesn't work as intended. And we hear all the time about these false activation alerts really taking control away from the driver's hands and really, causing some dangerous scenarios on the road where the technology isn't working the way it's supposed to. So as part of the mandate from Congress, NHTSA, along with FMCSA, has issued a joint notice of proposed rulemaking that came out a couple months ago. And really, reading through it, we think it falls quite short of really solving this false activation alert problem. The testing protocols even acknowledge that there's going to be unintended consequences. It's only going to be minimum performance standards. The testing conditions don't account for darkness or inclement road conditions. Just a whole host of shortcomings involved with the proposal. So kind of think there needs to be a whole lot more that needs to be fixed before any mandate goes into effect. And the initial kind of timeline for this is 3 to 4 years after a final rule is proposed. But we think there's a lot to work on before a final rulemaking is published, and certainly before any mandate is introduced and goes into effect, where you're going to have every new truck coming with this AEB technology. And if there's still all these false activations and it's not working in different road conditions, it's not going to improve highway safety, and that's really what we want to avoid. Not only in AEB technology, but certainly for any of the safety technologies that we kind of see introduced. It needs to be proven to work, needs to be safe, doesn't just need to sound safe for it, really to be mandated. So we've got a lot of concerns that we're mentioning, and we're kind of getting into the final days here before this initial comment period closes, and we've encouraged any drivers who haven't commented to get their thoughts in before the September 5th deadline.
Yeah, you lay out the concerns there very well that OOIDA has, and I'm sure a lot of people out there have. And even we should mention NHTSA just recently, over the past several months, opened up its own investigation into false automatic braking on, I believe, certain Freightliner and Western Star trucks. So, Even NHTSA, even the agency there, clearly has information that leads them to believe that maybe there are some issues out there that need to be resolved. However, they're forging ahead again with this possible proposal there. You mentioned fightingfortruckers.com. That's a kind of a one-stop shop to get those comments in. I do want to ask you, though, real quick, when people out there who are listening make their comments on this issue, on any other issue, but this one in particular, what do you recommend that they say? Because it can kind of get confusing and convoluted, and people may not be sure exactly what they're supposed to say in these comments. What would you recommend they do say?
Yeah, for those drivers who have had experience with the automatic emergency braking technology, I think you want to, let the agencies know if it worked the way it was supposed to or if it was problematic. We also need to mention here, you mentioned the investigation that NHTSA has opened. This was a whole host of trucks manufactured between, I think, 2017 and 2022 that have experienced these false activation alerts. There's also a whole nother requirement that NHTSA and FMCSA should have consulted with drivers as part of the rulemaking process. We think that should have been done up front before this proposal was published. So we want to get that in to NHTSA and FMCSA, that they really need to listen to the men and women behind the wheel who are going to have to comply with this mandate whenever it goes into effect. And we want to make sure that those voices are reflected in whatever final rulemaking comes from DOT. So a whole host of concerns. If you've had experience with AEB, if you haven't, let them know how it should work, what kind of, what are the pros and cons that you could foresee for a mandate, and certainly want to respond to some of these shortcomings in kind of the testing protocols that have been proposed thus far.
Yeah, we've noticed some solid comments on there already from people who have had bad experiences with AEB systems and it, picking up street signs above the highway and braking for no apparent reason, these false activations. Yep. So definitely, if you've had those experiences, make sure you include those in your comments to let the policymakers there know that this thing may not be ready for prime time, and there could be some serious safety implications there. Also, safety implications, we'll kind of move on here, but staying with kind of that theme here, our next topic, FMCSA wanting to develop a new process for determining when a motor carrier isn't safe. The agency is also asking the public to weigh in on this one as well. What sort of change, Jay, are we possibly looking at here compared to what the current regulations say?
Yeah, and this is the latest attempt to remake the FMCSA's safety fitness determination process. And this is something that, FMCSA goes through to try and rate different motor carriers across the industry, really trying to target motor carriers that are unsafe and unfit for duty. There's a whole process now that, according to FMCSA, really isn't targeting a sufficient population of all the motor carriers. I think it's just about 2% overall. So they want to kind of figure out a more practical, better, efficient way to try and, analyze and determine motor carriers that are operating unsafely and either make sure that they improve their operation or that they're not allowed to be on the roads, and DOT can revoke their authority. So we saw a proposal in 2016 that FMCSA eventually withdrew. And some of the problems are the way that FMCSA analyzes how the safety ratings for motor carriers and the safety measurement system. And they're kind of in the process of revising a lot of those algorithms and methodologies. From what we've seen, these calculations are inconsistent, inaccurate, and can not really portray a lot of motor carriers, especially small business motor carriers that aren't getting inspected as much, aren't getting audited as much, and just one violation can have a real detrimental impact on that small carrier's operation and their ability to continue to stay in business. So FMCSA has published an advance notice of proposed rulemaking, a very kind of the initial stage of the rulemaking process to really try and determine what's going to be the best way to go about this. And again, the current system relies on 6 different factors: driver, operational, vehicle, hazardous materials, and accidents. Does not really take into account that separate safety measurement system, but based on what the agency has proposed, what they put on paper back in 2016 in their proposal, I think they want to incorporate what we still think is flawed methodology into this broader safety fitness determination program. So they've laid out 12 different questions, but I think based on what they get back from the public comment period here, and it's going to be a 60-day comment period, then that'll kind of give them some more direction on which way to go.
Yeah.
One main question: should FMCSA retain the current 3-tiered rating system of satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and conditional? Current safety fitness determination does not use all available safety data, such as inspection-based data. Should SMS methodology be used to issue safety fitness determinations in a manner similar to what was proposed in 2016? And quite a few different technical questions. But again, this goes back to how FMCSA is gathering and analyzing safety data and those systems, which we think there needs to be a lot more improvements, a lot more uniformity, and certainly got to take into account small carriers versus large carriers in how you come up with those ratings. So until they do that, any major safety fitness determination proposals are going to leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah, this one is a little, actually, I guess a lot less clear-cut than the AEB debate. It
Right.
feels like we're kind of in the weeds here with all of this. But the idea is that they're trying to figure out, I guess, a better way to determine when a motor carrier isn't safe.
Yep.
And we're kind of moving through that process. I'll be curious to see what OOIDA comes up with here near the end of this comment period, which, as you mentioned there, runs, I think, through pretty much the end of October. So we'll keep an eye on that. This one, again, convoluted, a little less clear on what we're looking at here, but it will ultimately matter to owner-operators out there where this thing eventually lands.
And the big difference here is this is just in the initial kind of information gathering stage with the advance notice of proposed rulemaking. FMCSA wants to gather more feedback, wants to hear from drivers before they kind of pick exactly which path they're going to go. On the AEB, a little further down the line, which really brings up more urgent concern.
Real quick here, Jay, we've only got a minute, but I think we can speed through this last one here. We had 3 trucking companies asking FMCSA for an exemption from entry-level driver training rules last month. They wanted the current rules relaxed a little bit from 2 years, the 2-year requirement for a trainer in a commercial truck experience down to 1 year. They pulled that exemption. OOIDA still commented. The basic argument that the association had about this: don't water down these regulations, right?
Exactly. After decades of going through the rulemaking process, February of last year, for the first time, we got national entry-level driver training standards. A big provision of that was that trainers had to have 2 years of CDL experience. We want to maintain that, and we know there's a lot of improvements that need to be made on the rule, but want to see the rule be strengthened and improved rather than being watered down. So we've seen a few of these exemptions come out. For the most part, FMCSA has denied them, and in this latest round, we encourage them to do the same.
There you go. Jay, pleasure as always. We'll see you next time, lurking in the shadows, ready to talk about regulatory matters. We appreciate it.
Sure thing.
You heard us mention the fightingfortruckers.com website a few times there. That's the easiest and fastest way to get those AEB comments in before Tuesday, September 5th. We're staring down a break right now, but there's more Landline Now on the other side. Stick around.
You trust PrePass for more bypasses? Now let PrePass help with tolls. PrePass toll service means lower cost, one invoice for all tolls, and fewer violations. Created by truckers for truckers. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
Landline Now, welcome back. Like many associations, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association had humble beginnings. This year marked 50 years that the association has been fighting for the rights of truckers. Over the past 5 decades, membership numbers have grown, but some members have been around since the very beginning. Jim Bolton joins me now. He has been part of OOIDA since the early days. Jim, when did you first get into trucking?
October 1971.
What made you want to get into that career?
Well, I had a real good job here in Decatur, and I just come back from Vietnam, and I didn't know what PTSD was. So I could not function, and I thought, well, it's truck driving. So with the GI Bill, I took truck driving trade school, and I started driving a truck. I couldn't be in one place long. I had to be moving.
And when you started driving in 71, of course, OOIDA was formed in 73. How did you hear about OOIDA?
There's a group of I was leased to a trucking company called Eagle Motor Lines in Birmingham, and they were. I met some of the other drivers. We became friends, and of course, I learned a lot. After I went to trade school, I thought, well, there's a lot to learn. But anyway, they kept talking about the problems truckers faced. And then some of them said, hey, there's a meeting in Birmingham with this guy, and we need to go. So about 25 of us went. And that's Jim Johnston. I'm really impressed with him to this day. So I joined OOIDA as, 729. I wasn't the first one, but I was close.
Yeah, really.
And from there, Jim had it set up to go to Washington, D.C. with as many people as we could get. So I was nominated to go and represent Alabama. I was single, so, it wasn't like I had a family to be away from. And we met for 5 days with government officials. The truckers' issues, to get them noticed, taken care of, if possible. Mm-hmm. And we met, I remember distinctly, a man that was in charge of the ICC. His name was Bernard Gaillard. He was very helpful, aware of rules and regulations, and he was a tremendous help in what we needed. And in time, we got the International Registration Plan, or IRP. We got rid of the bingo cards, and we got uniform weight limits in all states. This did not happen overnight. It happened, down the road. But Jim Johnston is and I met Todd Spencer, but I'm not sure if it was there or later. Mm-hmm. And I just don't remember the other truckers' names that were there. But we were there for 5 days, meeting with different officials, and it was eye-opening for somebody like me that's 20 years old, a little better. Just a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm. What was it about the association and going to D.C. that made you want to keep being a part of OOIDA?
Well, Jim Johnston is the main force of that. His dedication and focus, it impressed me. And I thought, well, I'm just one guy, and heck, he needs all the help he can get. So I joined and stayed. I'm still trucking, too.
Wow. And so you've been trucking for what, 52 years?
52. I'll be 78 in November.
Wow. What is it about trucking that you just want to keep going, doing it?
At the time, it was freedom. I mean, I could take a load from here to California, Texas, wherever. And I didn't have to be in the same place, and it was just a freedom thing. And I bought my own truck after I went to Eagle Motor Lines, drove their company truck for about 8 or 10 months. And by having my own truck, I could go when I wanted to, where I wanted to. And it fit me perfectly with the dealings I had from Vietnam.
How do you feel like trucking helped, like you mentioned with PTSD? How did trucking help with that?
I could stop anytime. If I had a real depressed, I guess, anxiety day, I'd just stop. And if I had bad headaches, I'd just crawl back there in the sleeper, zip it up and sleep. I didn't have an alarm clock or anything. I'd just sleep till I woke up and go again,
Mm-hmm.
And it was perfect for me. I wasn't married. I only got married the first time 5 years ago this September, next month.
Wow.
And I just got that diagnosed with PTSD 11 years ago, and I didn't even know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And finally got the VA helped me out with PTSD, and other than that, I didn't know what was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I joined the Marines right out of high school, and thought that's what I should do, and I did it. So here we are today.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned when you went to D.C. A few of the things that you fought for, and like you said, it didn't happen overnight. What were, I guess, some of the other things throughout the years that you've participated in? Did you ever go to D.C. again with Jim?
No, I did not. I think he'd really got the organization off the ground in a year or two, and then they started getting members that were on the board, I suppose, to go and represent. And we just continued to grow in numbers, and the bigger we got, the better the legislators listened.
What were some of the biggest changes you've seen over the years as far as government regulations go?
At that point, by having the international registration plan and the bingo cards being getting rid of and the uniform weights, everything was great. But since 2000 or 2010, whatever, things have went south as far as trucking. And if it hadn't been for OOIDA, it would have been even worse.
How so?
Well, when you're leased to a trucking company, you have to put up a deposit, and a lot of places, a lot of companies would take advantage of everything you were doing because they had your lease deposit, they paid you, and if they decided to take out something for fuel tax or whatever, they did it, and there's nothing you could do about it. With OOIDA, they had a truth in lending or leasing contract, I guess you'd say,
mm-hmm.
and they started making a difference in a lot of different trucking companies and going to bat for somebody that they didn't even know. Arrow Truck Line was one, I think, around Oklahoma.
How does it feel that some of those fights, like you just mentioned detention time, I mean, that's still an issue that's being fought to this day?
It is. But it would be even worse if OOIDA hadn't stood up and at least addressed the problem.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever think back then, joining this association, that 50 years later, the association would still be going strong with thousands of members and you'd be a part of it?
I really did not. It's just amazing to me. I'm proud to be a part of it for sure. I never envisioned it going this way. I really didn't. But I think without the focus on trucker issues, Jim Johnston and Todd Spencer, it wouldn't be here.
I'm curious, what other memories do you have, from the early days or throughout your career that you have that have OOIDA in them?
Sometimes, I don't remember what year it was. Heck, I got 50 years of memories.
Yes.
But if I had a problem at a shipper or receiver, I said, I'm just going to turn this over to OOIDA. And a lot of times they didn't know who it was. But over the years, they began to, listen and address the problem, whatever small they were. OOIDA made an impression, a good impression, I think. Good for me, anyway.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to truck drivers now who are out there who maybe have considered becoming part of OOIDA, but, what would you say to them?
I would say definitely do it, because there's no one else going to stand up for you. None. Zero. Not even the company you're leased to.
Do you have any plans to retire at all, or you're still going strong?
Well, I may have to retire. My wife's about to kill me on some of these honeydew lists. But I enjoy working. I can't sit still. We're doing projects around the house here. I'm still working part-time. I worked 8 days in a row here in the last week, and she's not happy about that, but I enjoy working.
Mm-hmm.
I get a piece out of it.
What do you haul, and what have you hauled over the years?
I've hauled steel most all since 71 till, about 2002 rather. I started hauling car parts with General Motors here in Decatur, Alabama. From there, I went back to flatbed, and now I'm pulling flatbed again. A small company in Decatur called Container Recycling. They recycle these plastic bins and haul them out to the customers, haul them back to the customers.
Mm-hmm. What do you think trucking will look like in another 50 years?
Ooh, this automated truck thing, I don't even want to think about that.
Mm.
That's impossible. You're just going to have a driver behind the steering wheel with freedom to stop and start, turn left, right, whatever. And I just don't see this automated. I don't see the reason for it. They can talk driver shortage all they want to, but these companies have got these nitpicky rules. And I went to work for White Oak here in Decatur for 5 years, and I've never been fired from a job in my life. And there I got fired from White Oak because of violation of the electronic logs. Mm-hmm. And I did do it. I admit it. I'm coming from Mississippi, and I like 25 miles being back to the home base, and the beeper already started. You're running out of hours. You need to stop. Blah, blah, blah. I like 22 miles being to Coleman, Alabama, mm-hmm. and I'm not going to stop on the side of the road for 10 hours when I like 22 miles being to the base, home base. And so I did it a couple of times, and I told him, I said, what do you want me to do? Well, you need to stop. I said, no, that's not the answer. Mm-hmm. But that rule is crazy. I've never been able to sleep 10 hours in a truck if I'm not sick. And so those kind of issues that just drive me nuts. Mm-hmm. And I'm not one to conform to silliness, like that. Yeah. And it cost me my job, which I'd already sold all my trucks by 2012 anyway.
What do you think, not just your career, but trucking in general, would look like if OOIDA never existed? Oh,
compare the USA to some communist country. That's about the closest I can give you. It'd be pitiful.
Why do you think OOIDA was and continues to be so important?
If it hadn't been for OOIDA, I don't really know. You couldn't have got anybody to buy a truck and start driving over the road. It would be rare. And for them to stand up for the owner-operator, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. And Jim Johnson and Todd Spencer are my two memories.
Well, I know certainly, you're an important part of it. It's the members that allow the association to do what it does. So we thank you as well.
Well, thank you for your contribution. I love this magazine.
Oh, good.
And your input and all that, it's just amazing. Mm-hmm. I looked at this thing. It says 50 year, 73, 23, OOIDA. Mm-hmm. I thought, wow, they're going strong.
Yeah. That was Jim Bolton, a truck driver and one of the first members of OOIDA. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. More miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Loadboard Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Loadboard Pro.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to you, and welcome back to Louis Pugh and Dee Studebaker. We talked to both earlier in the week about the upcoming Truck to Success seminar that's held every year in the fall, and now they're back with more. Louis, good to see you. Dee?
Great to be on your show as always, my friend.
Very good. Dee,
Thanks
how
for
you
having
doing?
us. I'm great, thanks.
Good. We're going to dive into one of the topics, one specific topic that's covered in Truck to Success, and as the three of us were talking about this, we figured why not start with the start of anyone's trucking business, or what should be the start of anybody's trucking business. That being a business plan. This is something that you cover extensively in the seminar. And Louis, this is extremely important to get right.
Oh, 100%. I mean, as we've said in the past, Truck to Success is sort of set up in chronological order of how you go through things. So business plan is one of the very first things was discussed there the first day. And yeah, it's important because before you invest thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into starting a small business, you need to kind of have a plan of how you're going to do it, what you're going to do, what it's going to cost you to do it, what you hope to make, and all these things. And then as you do this, starting out, that's your basics, then that'll kind of morph on into if you decide you're going to do this business, you should morph that into, what my costs really are, whether the fixed costs, fluctuating costs, plus, what I'm making. And because at the end of the day, if you go through with this and you buy a truck, it's really, really, really important to know what your cost of operation is. And that's where, we get calls all the time, and it's nothing against anyone, and, but we're like, they're talking, we'll ask them their cost of operation. They have no idea. So you don't really, if you don't know your cost of operation, I don't know how you take a load in the first place, because you don't even know if this is profitable or not for you. And the thing about trucking, it's so diverse, and everything's so diverse in the industry. Even, there's not a set cookie cutter answer. There's averages.
Sure.
But hey, this guy, maybe I only need $1.50 to be profitable, but somebody else maybe $2 or whatever. And the good thing I think that they really bring out in this whole class, in this creating a business plan, is they have the averages of what the big motor carriers, what they operate on. Mm-hmm. And that's something you really need to be cognizant of, because that's your biggest competition. And I always tell people in there, when Andrew does this part of the segment, I always remind people, these are the numbers. You need to figure out how to cut your costs to get as close to those costs as you can, because it's more profit for you.
Yeah, I suppose there are people out there that fall into it and just kind of do the job and don't really necessarily think about this. But your chance of being successful in doing that, just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, it's not going to be too good. So yeah, the business plan does set you up to succeed in the trucking business. When we're talking about all this, Louis, and you talk about all the things you have to take into account, I think some people think of a business plan, they think of a huge binder like Dee's got in front of her right now, with everything just laid out. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, right? It's basically just being honest and kind of laying out what you hope to achieve and what that looks like, right?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. Like Lou was talking about, the cost of operations are important, but in trucking, your business is as individual as you are. And that's one of the great things about this session is it kind of goes through and helps you create your own unique business plan that's unique to you and your plan. What are you going to be doing? Where are you going to be doing it? And he walks you through the best way to create your unique business plan and continue to check back with it and update it, because, times are different these days.
That's a huge thing, yeah.
One of the things that really sticks out to me is that lots of professions have continuing education. And this might be a great opportunity for someone who's already been in the business for a while, and maybe they do need to update their business plan. Maybe they have changed things since they started. And this is a great way to kind of rethink in the days that we live in right now, what is my business going to look like from this point forward?
Well, even if they haven't changed necessarily, the environment around them very well might have, which makes you want to go back and readjust.
Right. We can always learn something new and learn how to be better. And I've said myself, from taking this the last few years, being part of it, I guess, is more of the proper answer or statement. Being part of this for the last few years, there's things that I learned, especially with the accounting and stuff that I didn't know before that I thought I knew. And there's things you think you know, and then you find, maybe there is a better way to build a mousetrap. And, Dee brings up a point. There is lots of industries out here that have continuing education. Trucking, unfortunately, does not a lot of times. And we all know the market's slow.
No trucking for dummies, like you said.
Exactly. No trucking but we know the market's slow and stuff, and maybe now is the time while it's slow. If you have a little extra capital, take a week off and take something like this to help, hone your business to be more competitive. Because that's what we're trying. We want everybody to be successful. Everybody good. But unfortunately, we live in a free market, capitalistic society. To me, that's fortunate. But when you live in that kind of society and you start a business, not everybody's going to make it.
Yeah.
And so, but if you don't want to be a statistic, then you need to arm yourself with knowledge. You need to go through certain steps and certain things to make sure that you're going about this the right way to get the odds on your side. Because let me say, in trucking especially, the odds are not in your favor to be successful.
Absolutely. You brought something up there, accounting, and I'm just curious, is there one particular thing in a business plan that tends to trip people up the most? Is it all the numbers and just the numbers flying around that are out there? What does kind of trip people up the most when they're coming up with these things?
Probably the numbers, and I think that people, they don't take the time, and I understand. And then there's none of this stuff is hard either. It's just once you get to thinking, but they don't take the time to consider, like I said, the fixed costs to the fluctuating prices, and you have to have that in mind because even if you take a week off, there's still an expense that gets laid out there. And then the other thing that I think that people forget or don't think about, because you've been a driver, especially for drivers, you've been a company driver, your paycheck's your paycheck. Okay, now your paycheck is a lot bigger, but you have to separate that out. You have to pay yourself, but you also have to save money for a rainy day.
Yep.
You have to pay your bills and other costs with the trucks. And, it looks I'm going to make all this money. Well, yeah, you are, but you have to remember you're going to take all this money away, too.
Yeah, it's feast or famine sometimes. And you mentioned the rainy day there. That's a huge part of all of this and accounting for that as well. Yep.
That's right. One of the pages that I'm looking at right now in the binder is this is not a money-made business. It is a money-saved business.
Yeah, that's Louie's favorite phrase when it comes to trucking success.
Andrew stole that.
Is that right?
Yeah. I should have copyrighted that.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true, though. It's
right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
He says it because it's true.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, there's not a lot of profit in trucking, and you have to remember too. That's what I said every day. Trucking is a business. It has to be treated like a business, and not every week you're going to profit. You may go out with a great load on your trailer or truck, and then something happens. It used to be me and my buddy always joked. It seemed like anytime we had some money in the bank, that's when something would happen.
Yep. Yeah,
at least we had the money in the bank.
It's like the money knows. Hey, it's time to go now.
Yeah,
for sure. Just again, Truck to Success Seminar running for 3 days starting October 17th in Blue Springs, Missouri. There's a virtual option as well for those of you who can't make it in person. And for more information on both of those, you can plug OOIDA Truck to Success into your favorite search engine, and it'll lead you right there. Dee, Louie, we'll talk to you again about all of this, but we appreciate your time and coming by to talk to us.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for having us, and thanks, truckers, for what you do.
Our thanks to Louie Pugh and Dee Studebaker, and our thanks to you, as always, for listening. We do appreciate it and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Until next time, take care and drive safe out there.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
Chrome, and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.